The German Shepherd wouldn't stop barking at the garage. When Jessica finally glanced through the window and noticed the shadow moving behind the door, her heart stopped. A tranquil Sunday morning was about to transform into a single mother's most terrifying moment. She had ignored Max's alerts, dismissed the snarling as nothing more than overprotective dog behavior. Her 18-month-old daughter kept gesturing, attempting to communicate that something was amiss. But Jessica didn't pay attention until she witnessed movement where there should have been stillness. What Max uncovered lurking in their property was so disturbing, it became the talk of the entire community. A fresh start. Jessica had only relocated to the peaceful residential area 4 months earlier. The home represented a new beginning after her separation, a place where she and Emma could create something fresh. The residents appeared welcoming enough, greeting from their yards, mentioning recent property crimes, but reassuring her their block was protected. She'd brought Max home from the animal rescue 3 weeks after settling in, believing a dog would provide Emma with a childhood companion and offer her some security as a single parent living alone. That Sunday morning began like countless others. Sunshine streamed through the kitchen windows, brilliant and comforting. Emma sat on her activity mat near the sliding glass doors, arranging brightly colored toys while Max rested beside her, the ever-vigilant protector. Jessica hummed softly as she prepared lunch, thankful for these uncomplicated moments of tranquility. "Just a little longer, sweetheart," she said to Emma, chopping vegetables for a salad. "Mommy's almost finished." But then Max's head jerked upward, his ears stood erect, his body went stiff. A deep, threatening growl emerged from his chest, so unlike his typically gentle nature. Jessica looked over. "Max, what's bothering you, boy?" Emma stopped playing, her small finger extended toward the glass. "Mama, Mama, what is it, Angel?" Olivia dried her hands on a dish towel and approached, looking through the doors. The backyard appeared completely ordinary. Morning moisture sparkled on the lawn. The garage stood silent at the side of the property. Sparrows chirped in the maple tree. Nothing unusual, nothing dangerous. "Probably just a raccoon," she murmured, patting Max's head. "You're such a faithful guard dog, aren't you?" But Max didn't settle down. His growl intensified, and he positioned himself against Emma, as if forming a shield between the toddler and whatever waited outside. Dismissing the alarm. "Max, that's enough." Jessica's tone held a hint of frustration. Single parenthood meant every second mattered, and she didn't have energy for unnecessary panic. "It's nothing. Come on, let me finish lunch." She returned to the counter, slicing cucumbers with more aggression than needed. Behind her, Emma continued tapping the glass, vocalizing insistently. Max's growl evolved into piercing, relentless barks. "Max, I said stop." Jessica snapped, her composure cracking. The pressure of recent months, the isolation, the perpetual anxiety about finances and protection, it all simmered beneath the surface. "Stop being so overdramatic." But Max wasn't overdramatic. Something no one recognized at that moment was about to alter everything. The barking escalated. Max charged toward the sliding door, his claws scraping desperately at the glass. He glanced back at Jessica, then at Emma, then at the door once more. His communication was unmistakable, urgent, frantic. "What is your problem?" Jessica marched over, her arms folded. For one horrible instant, she contemplated confining Max to the basement. He'd been such a peaceful dog until this moment. Maybe bringing him home had been an error. Maybe she couldn't manage an infant and a dog simultaneously. But then Emma started wailing. Not her typical fussing for attention, but a terrified scream that made Jessica's chest tighten. All right. She lifted Emma into her arms, the small body quaking against her. "Let's investigate what has everyone so panicked." She stepped closer to the glass door, peering at the yard. The garage. Something about the garage looked wrong. The door, it was partially ajar. Jessica's breathing stopped. She had secured that garage the previous evening. She recalled verifying it twice, her hand on the bolt, ensuring everything was locked before retiring. It had become routine in this new area where property crimes were whispered about at neighborhood gatherings. The horrifying realization, time seemed to crystallize when she saw it. A hand weathered, unmistakably human. It pushed the garage door wider from within. Her reality shattered in an instant. Oh no, the whisper barely left her lips. Anna felt impossibly heavy in her arms. Or perhaps her legs had turned to liquid. Oh no, there's someone inside there. Max's barking reached a crescendo. He hurled his body against the door. Every muscle in his frame committed to one objective: reaching that garage, defending his family, neutralizing the danger. The hand vanished, and then a figure appeared. A man, probably in his 40s, wearing black clothing and a hoodie obscuring his face. He gripped a backpack over his shoulder, stuffed with what Jessica identified as her power tools, the costly ones her father had purchased as a moving gift. When the trespasser noticed Max's hysterical barking and Jessica's face in the window, his expression changed to shock. For one suspended moment, they locked eyes across the expanse of grass. Then he fled. He sprinted toward the fence, abandoning a screwdriver that clattered onto the concrete. Max erupted into chaos, his protective drives overwhelming everything else. "Max, stay!" Jessica screamed, but her voice shook so violently the command emerged fragmented. Her hands trembled as she grabbed her phone, nearly dropping it multiple times before managing to dial 911. "What's your emergency?" "There's an intruder in my yard. A man. He was inside my garage. He's scaling my fence. Please, I have a baby. Please send help." The operator's voice remained composed, requesting her location, asking if the criminal was still visible, asking if she was secure indoors. Jessica provided answers while watching the man struggle over the wooden fence, his backpack catching on the boards. Max's barking never ceased, not for a single instant. "Officers are 3 minutes away, man. Stay inside. Secure all entrances. Do not engage the intruder." 3 minutes felt like 3 eternities. Safety and guilt. Jessica collapsed to the floor, her back pressed against the wall, Emma clutched to her chest. Max finally stopped barking and approached them, pressing his solid warmth against her side, still alert, still protecting. "I'm sorry," Jessica whispered into his fur, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry. You knew. You tried to warn me." The reality struck like a physical impact. She had almost silenced him, almost locked him away, almost dismissed the very instincts that had just protected them from who knows what. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing nearer. Red and blue lights illuminated through the front windows. Within minutes, four police cruisers surrounded the home. Officers dispersed, examining the yard, photographing the screwdriver, inspecting the garage. A male officer with a stern expression came to the entrance. "Ma'am, I'm Officer Thompson. You and your child are secure now. May I enter?" Jessica nodded, unable to speak. Officer Thompson knelt beside Max, offering his hand for inspection. "This your dog?" "Yes, Max. I rescued him about 3 weeks ago. He saved us." Officer Thompson stroked Max's head, and his tail wagged despite the tension still coursing through his body. "His alertness likely prevented the intruder from entering your home. We discovered the screwdriver and recovered fingerprints. This corresponds with a pattern of midday burglaries we've been tracking. The perpetrator focuses on residences during daytime when occupants are occupied. You did the right thing calling immediately." Another officer appeared at the entrance. "Thompson, we apprehended him for blocks away attempting to conceal himself behind a shopping center. Backpack filled with stolen items." Officer Thompson smiled at Jessica. "That's very good news. We'll require you to visit the precinct later to identify your belongings and provide a complete statement. But the immediate threat has been eliminated." The lesson learned. After the officers departed, after the yard had been examined and documented, after the garage had been reinforced with a new, reinforced lock, Jessica sat on the floor with Emma and Max. The lunch, vegetables had long since wilted on the counter. She buried her face in Max's fur, her shoulders convulsing with delayed trauma and overwhelming appreciation. "You saw him," she whispered, "when I was oblivious. You understood something was dangerous, when I believed everything was normal." Her voice fractured. "I almost didn't trust you. I almost locked you away because I thought you were being irrational." Max licked her face, gentle and forgiving. Emma reached for the dog's fur, laughing now that the frightening man was captured, and Mommy had stopped weeping. Over the subsequent days, the account spread through the neighborhood. Jessica became the woman whose dog prevented a burglary, and Max became a community hero. Neighbors who'd never acknowledged her before arrived at the door with treats for Max and meals for Jessica. The local television station featured a brief story about home security and recognizing your pet's warning signals. But for Jessica, the understanding went deeper than neighborhood recognition or safety advice. She had learned something about faith, about the invisible dangers that encircle us, about the protectors we don't always acknowledge. She'd observed Max's barking and perceived irritation instead of alarm. She'd been so consumed by her own pressure, her own exhaustion, that she'd nearly suppressed the one voice attempting to rescue them. From that day forward, when Max's ears lifted or his body tensed, Jessica listened every single time without question. The deeper truth, sometimes the boundary between security and peril is protected, not by locks or surveillance systems, but by instinct we too frequently disregard. What we dismiss as excessive reaction often shields us from what we cannot perceive. The world contains dangers that conceal themselves in garages and darkness, in the bright illumination of ordinary Sunday mornings. And sometimes the most significant trust we can demonstrate is to believe in warnings we don't yet comprehend, in voices that communicate without language, in the ancient intelligence of creatures who perceive what our busy, distracted eyes entirely miss. True protection doesn't always announce itself clearly. Sometimes it manifests as persistent barking, as restless pacing, as behavior we're tempted to silence, because it disrupts our routines and challenges our assumptions about what's normal. The guardians in our lives, whether they walk on four legs or too often see threats before we do, they sense danger in ways our modern, distracted minds have forgotten. And when we choose to trust them, to listen even when we don't understand, we open ourselves to a form of protection that no technology can replicate. Jessica learned that morning that love shows up in unexpected forms, that protection sometimes barks when we want silence, that the most important voices are often the ones we're most tempted to ignore. If this story resonated with you and reminded you to trust the instincts of those who protect you, share it with others who need this message, because sometimes the greatest security comes from the companions we almost dismiss. If this story touched your heart, please support the channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who needs a little hope today. See you in the next story.